So an objection you hear a lot from atheists are them going, "Ah, if God is, if God exists, then who created God?" And usually this objection comes up when you start talking about the Kalam argument. I personally experienced it, where the first premise is whatever begins to exist has a cause. And they're like, "Oh, well, who created God then?" And it misses something very simple. And unfortunately, this actually stumps a lot of Christians. Like, who created God? I don't know. It's like, bro, come on, you sound like a geek. This argument sucks. This objection sucks. The mainline theistic argument is that God is an uncaused, necessary, all-powerful, eternal being. Now, if you catch that, eternal things don't begin to exist. So, God's existence, which he's an eternal being, doesn't contradict the idea that whatever begins to exist has a cause. It's not a real objection. It's a stupid objection. Now, another example of things that are necessary and don't begin to exist are numbers. Numbers don't begin to exist. Numbers exist eternally and necessarily. What theists argue is that things that begin to exist, or things that don't exist necessarily, need external causes. However, things that exist necessarily and eternally, they don't need causes. That's the difference. One needs causes, doesn't need causes. So, this doesn't contradict any theistic arguments. That's the first thing. Now, that's a pretty standard rebuttal. And atheists say the same thing about the universe. They don't come at me like, oh, God, oh, you're really special, you're giving special treatment. Atheists say the same thing about the universe. They say the universe is uncaused, eternal, and necessary. Now, given modern cosmology, the idea of an eternal universe is highly, highly unlikely. But getting by that, even the philosophical arguments before modern cosmology showed that an eternal universe was extremely unlikely. So now, if you get by that, right, what I've realized is this point doesn't get brought up much, is that this idea of God being created is not only self-contradictory, but it also, if you get by the self-contradictory nature of it, it would create an infinite regress. So, saying a being like God, all-powerful, all-knowing, the tip-top being, is created, doesn't make any sense, because wouldn't that make the being who created God greater? But then how could God be God, because God's the greatest being? So it's self-contradictory. I mean, it doesn't even work. It doesn't even make any sense. It's like a female king. It's a self-contradictory statement. Now, if we look at something like if you can get by that, you have an infinite regress, because, okay, well, all-powerful being is created by another being. Okay, well, that would make this being all-powerful. Well, it just keeps going infinitely, even if you get by the self-contradictory nature of it. So this objection, who created God or who designed the designer, is really bad. This is a very bad objection. It's something you commonly see amongst popular level, not the most educated atheists. But upon more scrutiny, and more refined atheists don't take this view, because it's a very bad objection. I mean, that's what it is. A very, very poor objection.